Hi, Eric Lanask with TMC. We're here in New York City at Cloud Expo, and I'm talking with ActiveState's Bernard Golden. Bernard, thanks for joining me.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me.
So maybe start off, tell me a little bit about what ActiveState is seeing as far as evolution of cloud computing and what that means to ActiveState.
Yeah. Well, ActiveState is a longtime company in the open source space, did open source languages. As a natural extension of that, about 2 or 3 years ago, recognized that Cloud Foundry, the whole notion of platforms as a service, developing applications faster would become a very important trend. Got into Cloud Foundry and now has its own distribution called Staccato. And ActiveState is the largest independent distributor of Cloud Foundry. And what we're seeing in the marketplace is, as companies become more familiar, more comfortable with cloud computing, they naturally turn to, how do I develop applications faster? How do I roll applications out faster? And that really aligns with the whole business trends toward, how do I become more agile with responding to the marketplace? How do I put IT enablement around all the product services I have? So our product really fits in with that trend.
And certainly those requirements and those needs are sort of almost running rampant across various vertical markets. But how does Staccato play into that?
Well, our primary market or target audience and all of our customers are enterprises, and really that's spread across a pretty wide variety. We have financial services, we have high tech, so really we haven't seen a great deal of verticalization per se in terms of who has approached us and who we work with. Because at least our experience is that our product is applicable. Maybe a different way to say it is, every industry needs to be able to respond more quickly to the marketplace. So we're equal opportunity in that everybody can apply our stuff.
What does Staccato do? How does it help those enterprise customers get to market more quickly with their applications?
Yeah, well, what's great about cloud computing infrastructure as a service is it removes the friction of doing infrastructure. So you're able to obtain and spin up resources in minutes where it used to take days or weeks. Then the question is, how do I create and roll out apps more quickly? Our product enables people to write in any language they want to use, but we have a development and deployment environment, so literally you write the code, you press a button, it deploys into an execution environment and comes up and is running within a minute or 2 minutes. So the whole friction of, I've got to create the code, I've got to then package up the application, then I have to upload it to a server, then I have to configure it, all that goes away. So we reduce the time from the developer getting the code done to the application being deployed into a production environment.
Is there an understanding of within the enterprise community of the concept of PaaS, or platform as a service?
Well, I would say it's an evolving area or an emerging area. Most of them have heard the term, not as familiar with what that implies, and I think it's only now that kind of, I would call them probably leading adopters, are starting to recognize the benefits and power of it. You hear the term, you go, platform service, okay, sounds great. But once you start working with it, you go, holy moly, I can roll an application out in minutes rather than the days or weeks it takes me to get it all through configuration and installation. Then you go, wow, that's magic, and then they start to really adopt it.
Who drives that education or that investigation, and then ultimately that adoption within the enterprise?
Within enterprises, we find that generally it's either an advanced architecture group is often the people who are, their charter is go explore what'll help us. It might be an operations group that is saying, how do we make our environment more responsive to our developers? And sometimes it's business units or something like that who go, we want to take advantage of cloud computing, how do we get faster at it?
And there's no question, you mentioned speed and time to market a couple of times, and no question that's one of the keys for enterprise and their app developers is getting those apps out to market, whether it's customers or their own users more rapidly. Does their ability to do that, and things like your platform as a service and others out there, does that have security implications in the sense that in the interest of getting things out to market faster, they overlook some security elements?
Well, if I can say your question a little bit differently, it's, security is obviously really important. Can you still accomplish your security requirements within the context of using a PaaS? And at least in the case of Staccato, absolutely. We look at security and we address it in 3 different ways. One is the code security, which is, there's code coming from a provider. How can you, and it's open source, so how do you know about that? We track all the vulnerabilities that are announced. We respond to them very quickly. We roll them out into patches. We deal with that. Then there's the application security. How do I ensure that only the right people can get at it? We tie into corporate identity management to make sure that only the right people are accessing the application from an administration perspective and so forth. Then the operational side is, when it's in operation, how do we make sure that only the right users get at it, only the the right security measures are in place, and again, we tie into corporate identity management. We have encapsulated within containers. We use Docker as part of that. So we make sure that only the right external parties can use the application.
How do your customers go about upgrading and enhancing their applications?
Well, actually, that's a good question, or a natural question, which is because they're getting to more rapid releases, they want more agility. They can't afford this sort of, we do a once-a-year release, and if it takes a couple of weeks to get it out. A lot of our customers are like, how do I roll out applications updates once a week or something like that? And fortunately, our product has a great facility to, when you check in the code and say, okay, now deploy, push, it goes right out and overlays the previous version, so leaves it up, but puts a new version out, and then you can seamlessly switch to the new version when it's ready to go.
Without any impact or on the users?
No, because basically at a certain point you have both versions up and running, and then you switch over and switch all the traffic to the new version. So users aren't seeing, it was down for an hour or it was down for a week. It's, just a few minutes.
So we're getting close to a constant development and constant upgrade, continuous upgrade cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly what I would say is the gating factor for that is typically not our product, it's the processes within the organization, within our user organization, on how do they get comfortable with that, familiar with that, and have the surrounding set of tool chain to support that.
What are the next steps? What else? What can we look forward to?
In terms of our product, the kinds of things that we're looking toward is how do we integrate other kinds of tools to sort of build out that tool chain to support that kind of continuous deployment, continuous integration that you were just talking about. That's where our product is going. I think what you'll see within the larger marketplace is an awareness that, gosh, the issues around infrastructure are getting solved. Now, how do I take that and make it within the applications and respond to business more quickly? We'll see a lot of that over the next 12 to 24 months.
Well, absolutely, and I would agree that's almost becoming a trend that I'm hearing is how do you connect everything that's going on within your IT organization to your business goals?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing for IT is this is a big change, so a lot of IT organizations challenged, how do I adopt it? But the great thing for IT organizations is they're no longer the back office. They're no longer the guys that just run the payroll or process the invoices. They're now the front line of how companies do business with their customers, with their partners, and so forth. So it's a challenging time, but a very exciting time for IT.
Excellent, and there's certainly going to be more to come. Bernard, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.